So just make sure that the moment you get into your degree, in your first year itself, you start hustling. So if I talk about myself, before appearing for any of the interviews, be it at Morgan Stanley, the first interview, or be it an Infosys also, or be it at Adobe, I had already done, let's say, 4 to 5 internships prior to that. At my times, I used to refer a lot to Geeks to learn and study everything that was there from the concept basis. Do not have the fear of failure. All of us have failed, and we keep on failing on an everyday basis. If you see someone who is right now sitting in Adobe, they might not have, joined Adobe in their first attempt.
So, hello everyone, welcome back to Geeks for Geeks. My name is Muskan Agarwal and I am here with yet another webinar on interview experience series. So, we have Priya with us today and she is going to share her experience at Adobe and her interview experience overall. So, before I get started with the questions, can you give us a brief introduction about yourself so that the audience connects better with you?
Sure, Muskan. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the Geeks channel. It indeed was an honor to be invited. Just to give a brief introduction about myself, I have recently graduated from JIIT in year 2020. Post that, I was working with Morgan Stanley as a technology analyst intern, and post that, I have been working with Adobe. So it's been a good 1.5 years that I have been, thriving working here at my workplace. Yeah, that was something really brief about me on the work side. Apart from that, I work on a day-to-day basis to uplift the student community, and I do that via LinkedIn. Yeah, that's more on the side that I try to mention.
That is really great. So I would like to ask from JP to Adobe, how have your overall journey been? Tell us more about your overall experiences.
Right. So from JP to Adobe, I would definitely like to touch upon. It was indeed a dream journey for me. I think Morgan Stanley was the first company that visited my campus, and I got shortlisted for that company. Post that, I had given the interviews, and I got selected for the internship. So I was supposed to go and join at Morgan Stanley's Mumbai office in February of 2020. Then I got a call from Adobe that my resume has gotten shortlisted there as well. And I was super excited, though I was expecting the less, because that was an off-campus hiring. They hired via a program called SheCodes, and folks from all the NITs and IITs and DTU and from JP, all the tier 3, tier 2 colleges as well. Everyone was open to participate. So that was a huge one. So when I got a call that the resume has been shortlisted, it was indeed something that ignite up something within me that I have to make through it, and that is when I started preparing for it even further. Then there was one online round that was taken back. There was some questions from aptitude, and others were from programming. So we did clear it as well. And then there was the on-site interview. So all the interviews were taking place in a single day. And touchwood, I was able to clear all of those. And that is how I entered from JP via SheCodes into Adobe. And then the journey has been phenomenal. From clearing SheCodes program and entering into Adobe in year 2020 to guiding the Adobe SheCodes aspirant for 2022 from Adobe's behalf. I mean, it has been a tremendous journey, and something like life comes a full circle to me.
Yes, that is truly an amazing journey. Also, I would like to ask that since you are from JP, so do you think college really mattered when the final selection was about to take place, or because you said that there are people from IITs and ITs as well?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, when it comes to Adobe, I'm particularly talking about Adobe right now, but this applies to a lot of great product-based companies these days as well. Definitely, when it comes to on-campus opportunities, it matters a lot which college you're studying from. But if you're someone who has really taken care of upskilling yourself from the first year itself, you have made a great resume, you have done some great personal projects, you have hold some great internships in various different domains and companies, then there is perhaps nothing that can stop you from begging a lot of good companies in your placements back. And that was my case as well. Of course, Adobe was there. We were invited in SheCodes, but JIIT did not have to play a significant role in that. So just like Adobe, you might end up having a lot of companies who might not directly visit your campus, but then if you have gotten some great experience and if you really own your skills, then there is nothing that can really stop.
Right. So it was an on-campus opportunity or an off-campus
It
opportunity?
was absolutely an off-campus opportunity. SheCodes is a program hosted by Adobe on an yearly basis. We have this program hosted every year, wherein we invite. This is a diversity hiring program. Although we invite women in technology from all over the country, irrespective of the institutes they are hailing from. This is also hosted online, so you can also be a part of it by giving the online round from some of the websites that we host it on, and then you get to know about this program by the notification sent to a lot of colleges. So that is how we got into it. So our college did give us a notification that Adobe SheCodes is there, and this is the contest you get to sit in. So that constant I would say contest throughout the nation is something which is actually going to take you in or sieve you out, and that is irrespective of which campus you're heading.
Right. So I think it is one of the greatest opportunity because there are no college restrictions. So I think everyone should apply for it. Apart from that, can you tell like what were the various steps in it? Like how many steps did you go through until you got the final result?
Sure. So for me, when it comes to SheCodes, first thing that we had to do was, give one online test. In the online test, there were certain aptitude questions. There were two coding questions as well, and the time was half an hour for each. The competitive questions when it comes to programming were there. If I talk about the difficulty level, there were very basic, I would say, easy to medium level. There were no difficulty for me to solve those questions. Plus, your resume was being evaluated and the aptitude question. So yes, aptitude was definitely something which is creating a bar whether you're getting selected or not. A lot of my friends who were able to do the programming questions but were not able to do the aptitude questions successfully. They were actually not selected. So having this thing in your mind that only doing programming is going to get through it is not something which will actually happen. You have to make sure that you do a good number of aptitude questions and preferably all of them, because again the pool is huge. This contest is actually something which is going to be constant for the entire country. So you have to make sure that you're trying to, ace it. After getting shortlisted from the online round, then depending on the day your interview is scheduled on, you get an invite. For me, it was an on-site invite. Post-pandemic, it has everything is moving virtual and online. So we went to the Adobe Noida campus. I think I visited the campus at 8 a.m. in the morning, and then the entire process started. We had different rounds, right? Not everybody was having similar number of rounds. So all the rounds were elimination rounds. So some people were selected only in 3 rounds. Some could only get to appear in 1 or 2 rounds because they were then eliminated. So depending on how well your performance is going, the number of rounds might vary from person to person, and that is how it actually takes place. And there is no bifurcation on as to which is DSA round and which is, let's say, managerial round. You get to
Okay.
sit for a different combination of questions across these 3, 4, 5 rounds. And the process took me an entire day. I think I was invited for 4 rounds of interview. And post those 4 rounds of interview, I was sent back home and I received my results after.
Okay, so the interview rounds can also vary. Like you had four, someone might have had three also.
Absolutely correct. So it completely depends on the kind of responses you have been giving to your prior recruiters. So what happens is in a technical interview, usually the interview for SheCodes is taken in a way that people from different hierarchies. So some computer scientists might be taking your interview, some MTS2 or SD2 might be there as well. So in your first round, they will pick a set of questions or a topic depending on what you have mentioned on your resume. There will be a good resume scanning as well, was that they will touch upon certain section of it. Let's say they ask a lot about operating systems and they want you to implement, let's say, threads in Java or whichever programming language you're working on right now. Once that section is touched upon, the interviewer makes up their mind. They get to see whether the candidate has the enough potential to move to the next round or not. If they feel like the candidate is not good enough even to proceed to the next round, they'll eliminate. Otherwise, if they see even the slightest bit of potential, then they are going to push you to the next round where the clouds are going to get a bit more clearer for the recruiting side. Some other person is going to come into the picture and he's going to touch upon something else, something which has not been touched upon in your first round. So let's say if you were inquired a lot on operating systems in your first round, they might end up touching on DBMS or touching on a lot of programming. So programming remains constant, but the topics might vary. So they might have ended up asking you a graph question in your first round, and then in the second round they might end up asking you something on trees. So this is how it goes on. And plus, they definitely do touch upon puzzles as well. I was asked puzzles in my, I think, penultimate round, third round. And then in the final round, I was actually inquired a bit on something which they were actually working on in their team. So they had presented me with a real life problem, and then they asked me, "How would you solve it? Write a prod level ready code." I still remember the line, being told to me. So this is how it happens. It is very dynamic. The process, the interview steps which were taken from me might completely vary from your process. It is not going to be identical at all.
That is a very elaborate interview experience, like that you told that 4 interview rounds were there, and then finally after that you got the result. So talking about the technical interviews, can you give like a brief about what kind of questions, or like maybe the difficulty level of the questions that were asked, and where did you prepare from, so that people who are applying in the upcoming years might also get a brief about it?
Right. So the exact questions are not there in my mind, of course. It was, I think, January 27, 2020. So yes, it has been a very long time, but I can definitely tell you about the kind of questions because I very well remember. So as I spoke about, they are not going to be restricted to only DSA. Of course, DSA takes the maximum amount of questions that are going to be asked, but then they definitely check upon a lot of your systems knowledge. Are you aware of operating systems concepts or not? Even I was actually asked one of the questions on page replacement algorithms as well. So definitely do a lot of OS before you're appearing for Adobe's interview. Apart from that, they definitely check out on DBMS section as well. You might end up writing some SQL query for them, let's say. Apart from this, just to break the ice, or just to have a little bit of offset from the traditional DSA questions, they might end up asking you some puzzles as well. So definitely do prepare the puzzles. I was actually inquired OS, DBMS as well as puzzles in my interview. Apart from that, when it comes to DSA, when it comes to the programming side of technical interviews that Adobe takes, they are not restricted to any one level per se. They might end up asking you some very basic questions also, as far as taking graph or DP question in the very first round itself. So I was actually asked a question on graphs in my very first round itself. So do not expect it to have an increasing level of difficulty. Do not go with this mindset that they'll start with very basic array questions and then they'll end up asking tough questions in the last round. No, they might have started from graphs, which was my case, and they might end up asking you a real life problem that they are dealing with in some of their teams in the last round. So this is how dynamic their process are. Plus the questions are very much fresh for me. I think one of my I think friends, she was from my college as well. She was in fact asked about the questions. Let's say, why does the blue tick appear on WhatsApp? So such questions are also going to be there. So you have to be very fundamentally strong, and you should be able to come up with the solutions and right optimal approaches right when the question is being put in front of you. So go with that mindset. Do not keep this thing in your mind that everything that you have studied beforehand is going to be touched upon. They might ended up creating, pretty new questions, fresh questions that you might have never even imagined of. So feel free to think out aloud and just be very open in your interviews.
I think, as you mentioned, that it is not an hierarchy that from easy to difficult. It totally depends on the interviewer. Like in my experience as well, it totally depends on the interviewer. Like sometimes I am asked easy questions, and my friends are asked difficult questions in for the same thing.
Correct.
So yeah. Also, I would like to ask that there are some tier 3 folks sometimes really struggle for placements and everything, because some companies do have this restriction of college. So what advice do you want to give to them?
Right. So, I mean, as the time is progressing, definitely product-based companies are shifting up and they are leveling up from this stigma of only hiring from tier one colleges or premier institutes in India. But as far as current situation is concerned, there is no limitation on a candidate appearing from whatsoever college he's aiming for. I can, vouch on this one fact. So over past 1 year, I have been very active on LinkedIn. I open to, have a community of around 55,000, mentees who are either freshers or they have recently applied and, gotten into some company. And this is the similar feedback I've received from all of them. So just make sure that the moment you get into your degree, in your first year itself, you start hustling. So if I talk about myself, before appearing for any of the interviews, be it at Morgan Stanley, the first interview, or be it an Infosys also, be it at Adobe, I had already done, let's say, 4 to 5 internships prior to that. So no one is stopping you to work, right? No one is stopping you from gaining experience outside of what is being taught in your college. So don't be restricted by it. Always try to seek better opportunities that are presented by these companies. So, of course, when it comes to me also, I was not very aware of a lot of programs that these companies are launching. So, if I talk about Adobe, we have Adobe Emerge, we have Adobe SheCodes. These are the programs you can always apply to, even if you're not from a premier institute. Let's talk about Microsoft. They have, programs like Microsoft Engage. Let's talk about Amazon. They have Amazon Wow or Amazon Women in Technology with scholarship. So, I mean, there are tremendous opportunities irrespective of which college you're coming from. Given if you have done a lot of hard work in your college days, a lot of good projects. Again, projects are not restricted that only do Android, only do web dev or machine learning AI. You don't really have to, make a very elaborate machine learning model with parallel processes and so on. You can also work upon whatever real life problem you face. Just make sure you put in your 100% efforts into that. At least have good 3 or 4 projects to put on your resume throughout your college journey, which is easy to get. We all have majors and minors in our programs. Apart from that, when it comes to your degree also, it is not very restricted to BCA, MCA, ME, BE, or BTech or MTech. Now, all the fields are open. Even some companies like Google, they are even open to take you in, irrespective of whether you have any formal education or not, if you're good with your skills. So, do a lot of prior internships, great projects, and it goes without saying you have to do a lot of DSA. In DSA also, people have this question in their mind whether to do competitive, whether to do, formal traditional DSA or to go for open source. If I talk about myself, I was not into competitive, I was not into open source, but I really had gone very thorough and deep inside the fundamental concepts of DSA that were there. At my times, I used to refer a lot to Geek4Geeks to learn and study everything that was there from the concept basis. And then to practice every single problem, I used to either refer to HackerRank when it comes to solving SQL questions, or I would go and directly refer to questions on LeetCode and past year archives, which are again present back on LeetCode. So these are the platforms you can refer to. Interview bit used to help us a lot when it comes to doing questions company wise, and depending on the basis of what BSA or what particular data structure you want to practice. So always try to keep a very strong hand there. If you have done this across your 4 years of program, plus one additional thing that has recently come up after the pandemic had hit was networking. Just go there, build a good profile on LinkedIn, connect with a lot of people in your prospect companies. Let's say you want to apply for fan companies for Adobe, connect with people from Adobe, get to know their interview experiences, right? Similar goes for other companies as well. Get to have a word with hiring managers on LinkedIn itself. You will get to know about a lot of budding opportunities. Plus, don't feel shy. Don't be a part of imposter syndrome. In your 4 years, take part in as many hackathons, as many contests as you can. Ultimately, all these things put on a resume is capable to break all the bars that the college name or tier might have ever put in your face. So yes, you're not restricted as far as you yourself are not restricting your own caliber.
Yes, and as you mentioned, networking is really important. Like, I would also like to share my personal experience. Initially, I used to think, like, why will someone reply to me on LinkedIn, or why will someone help me? But yeah, people are really helpful. As you mentioned, that the community is growing and people really do look out for helping the juniors that are already there. So yes, you should definitely network and talk to people from the same company that you are aiming for.
Right.
Right. Apart from that, like we discussed about DSA, so for the theory subjects like operating system, DBMS, apart from Geeks for Geeks and HackerRank, did you use any other resource particularly for them?
Yes. So let me share my plan that I had actually created and followed for myself from the 5th semester onwards. Till fifth semester, I was very busy doing a lot of internships, exploring different domains. So I had my internships in data analytics, business analytics, and all different domains. I had done something in big data, so I was busy exploring. After fifth semester onwards, what I started doing was, first of all, I started referring to a lot of YouTube channels. I would say Sanchit Jain's channel is one of the most helpful channel. Knowledge Gate is the name. Apart from that, I used to refer to NISO Academy's channel, Gate Smashers channel. All these YouTube channels really used to help me while building a foundation to any topic that I was reading in operating systems, let's say, or in DBMS, specifically for these two. After going through these, I used to just simply search on the topic. Let's say I want to explore something in DBMS, then I would just go search that term on Google, and then irrespective of the website showing in front of me, I will go through at least 3-4 different websites. If I have to name some of the most important websites were, of course, Geek4Geeks, last minute notes on Geek4Geeks, Java T Point was there for me, and a couple of more. So I would open these four parallel tabs in my browser, and I would read on the same topic. So the entire, concept would really get crystal clear, and then I would make notes. So this was my process, how I used to refer to everything. So make a building, foundation stone from the YouTube channel, because someone is trying to explain it to you by giving some example. And when it comes to DSA, I used to refer a lot to Ravindra Babu Rovela's channel, and there is another channel by Abdul Badi. So he used to explain algorithms beautifully. And apart from that, whenever it was quick, I wanted to quickly just revise something, I would definitely go log on to YouTube channel of Geek4Geeks. Here, let's say if you're doing merge sort, the merge sort is shown, visually how the things are moving in place. So it was a really great place for a quick review. So this is how I used to do. Build foundation stone and then do the concepts, try to grasp it from the grassroots level from different websites, because every website is trying to add something or the other to the concept you have learned. You might end up getting great examples, which might end up being asked. So this is how I used to prepare, yes, more or less. And when I talk about DSA specifically, how I used to do DSA, the first thing I would do is I would open week for week in front of me. Let's say arrays I have opened. In arrays, they have bifurcations across arrays as well. You can do fundamental problems, medium problems, or some pretty hard problems. Those were there. So I would try to read the problems, kind of problem. Let's say array rotation is something I want to practice today. Well, understand the basics from there. In Geeks, the beauty is that they are not presenting you with one hardcore solution. They are giving you 3 or 4 different alternative approach to try to understand the logic that is getting built behind that problem. So that is what I used to do. After solving enough questions on array rotation, let's say when I would feel confident enough, I used to go to platforms like LeetCode or sometimes HackerRank, and I would just pick random problems for the company that I'm preparing for, and then I would try to solve it. So this is how I used to do for DSA. And just in case I was getting stuck, I wanted to understand how the algorithm is functioning. I wanted to do time complexity, space complexity, and such trade-offs. I would go to these YouTube channels with that. Yeah, this was my process, and one thing that really helped me was writing everything down. I really used to explain everything back to me and used to do a lot of code like that. So yeah, that really helped.
Yes, I think that is an amazing strategy. Also, all the YouTube channels that you mentioned, like I'm also in my third year, and these are all the channels that I still refer to. So even I can vouch for every single YouTube channel that you mentioned. So definitely, guys, you can check those out. They'll really help you in your place. Yes. So next thing comes to resume. I think before all this online assessments and interview rounds and everything, resume is like the first thing that reaches to the company.
Right.
So can you tell like how can a student prepare their resume in order to stand out from the rest of the students that are already there?
Right. So, first of all, I'll break it down for you. I'll make it very simple. Don't think about making a resume. So, first of all, try to identify which year you are in your degree right now. So, let's take an example of BTech. In the first 2 years of BTech, you have to collect the content that you are going to put on your resume later in the next 2 years when you are making your resume. So concentrate and devote your first 2 years of college in trying to make some great projects, do some great internships, do a lot of open source if you can. Definitely try your hands in competitive programming. If you master it, then there is nothing like competitive programming to get you a very strong hand in DSA. So definitely try your hands in it. If you don't feel like doing it, leave it right off. You have a lot of more options to explore, right? Do a lot of courses, you can do certifications, a lot of student programs are there. So try to collect as much content as you can. Take part in different contests, hackathons organized by, all the companies these days. ZS has it, Deloitte has it, Adobe has it, Microsoft, I think Google, every single, big product-based company, name it, and they have something for this. So once you're done collating all the content, you have done XYZ certifications, courses, you have made some good projects. Let's say you have made a total of 5 to 6 projects. Now it is completely on your will once you will be making that resume, which 3 or 4 to select and put. So this is very important, collecting content. After you have a lot of content, let's talk about the later 2 years. Now what you have to do is you need to start putting together your resume. First, very basic thing, I would divide it into 3 different branches. First is it has to be a single page of resume. It has to be very well formatted, and third, it needs to have enough white spaces. Do not bombard it with information. It should not look too theoretical. Otherwise, I am talking from a recruiter's perspective also, and from a candidate's perspective also. It becomes very tedious, and no one is willing to go through that much of theory just to pick out 1 or 2 important pointers, right? So you have to make sure as a candidate that whatever notable things you have done in your career, you have to highlight them. And to highlight them, you need to make sure that there is a lot of fights. So this is the first heading and 3 branches that I want to talk about. Next thing that I want to add in is definitely add in everything that you feel like has added some sort of a glitter or a star in your career. For example, if you have hold any position of responsibility, and that was a prominent one, let's say you are IEEE chair of your college, or you happen to be the vice, president or something of the student community, definitely add those on. Apart from these things, what matters a lot is what all projects have you done. In the project section, definitely mention the tech stack, the duration you build it in, and then definitely try to mention a little bit of quantitative approach. So if I talk about Google's very famous formula for writing any projects in your resume, they talk about writing it in the form of I have implemented X using Y, which had an efficacy of Z. This is how it should be. Just one single line talking about everything. I had implemented X. So in the X, you talk about the system or project that you had built, the idea behind it. Implementing Y. So in the Y, you talk about the entire tech stack, what all technologies, programming language, framework, database, etc. you had used, which had an efficacy of Z. Z is basically going to tell them what was the efficiency or the accuracy of your model, or how did it improve the current system? What was the highlight of your project? So you are trying to tell them everything, but without writing a paragraph, translating the same paragraph in just one line. So this is how you should be mentioning projects. At least 3 must be there. Apart from that, definitely touch upon the internships that you have done. Now, a lot of people have this thing that if we have not done internships in some great companies, we are not going to mention it. Don't do that. Try to show this to your former, I would say not former prospective recruiter or hiring manager, that you were able to grasp so many opportunities, you actually crack these many interviews. This is what shows them you're a constant learner, you're not stagnant in your career journey. So definitely touch upon that. Then mention all about the coding profiles that you have. Apart from that, a lot of credentials you can mention, like you can mention your certifications, you can mention your any notable achievements that have been in the past, if you have won any contest or something like that. This is how a well-structured resume should look like, touching on everything but not bombarding with a lot of information.
Right. I think that is some amazing piece of advice, because in my initial years, even I used to struggle a lot. I was like, I have so much to write. What should I remove from my resume? Like, it was
Correct.
going 2 to 3 pages. Also, like, the resume should be 1 page, I think.
Yes, that's very
Right.
important. And also, don't just always have a set in stone one resume. Always tailor your resume as per the company and the job description you're applying for. So
Right.
let's say if you're presenting it to the interviewer directly, you can use a 2 column one. But if you're applying online, make sure that you have a very good, ATS friendly resume. It has to be linear. It has to be, scored very well. You can also check out websites like resumeworded.com just to check, whether your current resume has a great score or not.
Right. So yeah, so the last question from my side would be, what advice do you have for the students who are aspiring to crack SheCodes or any other big tech company in the upcoming years?
Right. So I think I've talked all about it. Just a few pieces of advice from me lastly would be do not restrict yourself. You are the only one who is either going to push yourself behind others, or you're going to pull yourself up to the highest staircase you can ever imagine. Right. So try to always motivate your own self. Try to be self-driven. Do not seek out motivation from others. If you are fortunate enough, you're getting it from your peers, from your family, from your seniors, that is great. But if not, then I think you can be the one person who is capable of changing your entire life. We do not have the fear of failure. All of us have failed, and we keep on failing on an everyday basis. If you see someone who is right now sitting in Adobe, they might not have, joined Adobe in their first attempt. They might have failed a lot of interviews before that. And even after getting into Adobe, they might be constantly hustling to get onto some other pedestal inside Adobe or outside the company as well, that they have a dream of, right? So everyone is failed. You are no different. Everyone is achieving, and again, you're no different. You are, capable of achieving all the dreams that you have dreamt of. And third thing is that always take criticism on a positive note, right? People are there to criticize. This is how it is. Even if you're doing something for your own self or for the community, the people, when they criticize you, always put a smile on your face and always try to show it to your own self that, I have proved the other person wrong who was criticizing me. If he says I'm not able to get into Adobe, start putting in so much hard work with perseverance and dedication that you crack Adobe and show it to your own self that whatsoever was the other person is trying to convey to me was incorrect. I know my own capability, and this is where I've shown. This is what my top three advices to you all would be. This is something I have gained across my 6 years now, right from 2016 to 2022. I'm still learning. You're a constant learner. Keep upskilling, keep motivating your own self. I'm not touching a lot upon, keep reading, keep upskilling yourself, because that goes without saying. If you want to be there in the competition, if you want to rise and shine, you have to grasp the skill. You should always be up for, being more adaptable, being a better learner. But then these are the things which you should always keep in mind. These are going to keep you standing to grasp all the beautiful things around. So that is my piece of advice.
Okay, thank you so much for those amazing words. I think even your advice will help me also, in my career, since I am just in my third year. So it was an amazing experience talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Muskan, for having me. I was really honored. Thank you.